Good evening, everyone. I see that we've got a group with us this evening. I'm very grateful to everybody for logging in, taking the time to join us. I am going to hold off just a minute or two to see if we have any other folks that log in, so if you'll bear with me. I do want to make good use of your time, so we will get started in just a moment. All right, I am going to go ahead and get started. I'll apologize in advance if I look distracted at any point. It just means more folks are joining and I'm trying to get everybody admitted. We are recording the session this evening so that if you have questions afterward, if you want to go back, if you have friends that are not able to make it tonight, we will make sure that we post everything on YouTube afterwards. And I do have a moderator. Katie Jones is our student activities coordinator for the college, and she is assisting me this evening with kind of monitoring our chat box. Give a little wave, Katie. So if at any point during the presentation you guys have questions, feel free to chat. Pop those in the chat box. Katie will let me know. If it's something I can address real quick during the presentation, I'm happy to do that, but I also will leave time at the end for questions. So hold on to your hats. Here we go. My name is Mary Schmid-Carter, and I am the College Access Coordinator for the college. I am basically the go-to person for the Central Carolina Promise K14 program. At any point, if you have questions or need assistance, I am definitely the person to reach out to, and I will include all of my contact information at the end of the presentation. That'll be on a final slide. And just to be sure everyone is seeing my presentation. Katie, if you're not seeing it, please let me know, but I'm going to assume it's working. I have been with the college for a couple of years. I started in August of 2016 with CCCC, and I have been in this program coordinator role now for about a year and a half. So I love what I do. It's really fun. I'm very passionate about CCCC, and we're very excited that you are considering staying with us next year. All right, so this evening, our plan is just to do a brief overview of the program. And then, as I said, I will leave time at the end for questions. The presentation itself probably won't be more than maybe 20 minutes, so we'll make good use of your time this evening. What I want to do first is talk about a couple program definitions. We've got two programs at CCCC that are similar and are connected, but are not the same thing. So what is Career and College Promise? Career and College Promise is the program that offers opportunities for high school students to dually enroll in free community college courses. So these are generally either general education courses or career and technical education courses that are all designed to help students get a jump start either on furthering their education or entering into their career field. Now, the difference, we also have a Central Carolina Promise K14 program, and that's the program we're talking about this evening. That is the program that guarantees an additional 2 years of free in-state tuition and required fees here at CCCC. So Career and College Promise is a statewide program. All 58 community colleges in North Carolina offer Career and College Promise. The Central Carolina Promise is unique to CCCC. There are a couple other community colleges that have similar Promise programs, but it is not a statewide guarantee. So we're pretty proud to have that here locally. You might also hear about the program sometimes being referred to as the Chatham Promise, the Harnett Promise, or the Lee Promise. We do have it available in all three of those counties, and it does provide funding opportunities through the 14th grade or an associate degree. And so that's why you'll occasionally hear me call it K14. We want to encourage students to stay in school, kindergarten through 14th grade. And it just helps differentiate it a little bit from Career and College Promise because obviously they're both CCP. It's very similar. It just is what it is. So Career and College Promise, keep in mind that is for current high school students. That's typically their junior, senior year. And then Central Carolina Promise, the students that are eligible are recent high school graduates. So hopefully that kind of clears that up a little bit. They're very similar, but a little different. We are going to focus this evening on K14, not so much CCP. If you are a student who either you're a senior now and you're still interested in trying to squeeze in one more class this spring or summer, we do have the availability for that. If you maybe know another student that's younger or have a sibling, somebody else is interested in CCP, I would be more than happy to connect you with the CCP advisor for your high school. We've got very talented, lovely folks who do that as their job, is to work with our CCP students. So just let me know afterwards if you have any questions, and I'm happy to connect that on. All right, so if we are talking about the entry requirements for the program, there are a couple things that we are looking for. Students that will be eligible for the program must be residents of either Chatham, Harnett, or Lee County. Those are the 3 counties that make up CCCC's service area. And because the funds for the program are provided through tax dollars, it's a very generous contribution. We have an agreement with the county commissioners in each of those 3 counties. So we do want to be very careful with those funds and make sure that we're using them appropriately. So we do require that students reside in one of the counties. Your high school does not necessarily have to be in one of those counties, but you do need to be a resident of the county. We are also looking for students who participate in those career and college promise classes that we were talking about earlier. Every once in a while, in an extenuating circumstance, we'll consider like an AP class or IB or some other type of college credit. But either way, we're looking for students who have a minimum of either 12 credits or 4 classes of college credit during high school. Again, CCP is sort of the main way. That's how most of our students qualify, but we will be looking for those earned college credits to help confirm your eligibility for the program. We also are looking for students who graduate from high school, and it does have to be a North Carolina high school. It can be public, private, charter, homeschool, really any format. And then there is a 2-year eligibility window during which you can enroll for the K14 program. So whether you enroll right away this August, or if you take a year off, whatever the case may be, your eligibility will begin in August of 22 and will expire in the spring of 2024. So even if you take time off, just be aware that there is not an opportunity to sort of make up the time at the back end. That window will still close in the spring of 24. So just be aware of that. The other thing that's important to understand is that K14 is a last dollar program. And so we are going to look for students to exhaust all other funding opportunities first. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on the other slide that we'll get to next. But we are looking, for, like I tell students, we're sort of like plan C. We're going to look to see if you have grants. If you do, great. If not, we're going to look to see if you qualify for scholarships. If you do, great. If not, we have K14. It's sort of that last piece that can come in and cover that in-state tuition rate, as well as your required student fees. The only thing that we are not able to cover right now through the K14 program are your textbooks and any other type of supplemental materials. A lot of students are able to get those costs covered through other means, especially if you do qualify for Pell. But just know that that is the only cost that you would anticipate if you're associated with the program, is potentially the books. So these are all the initial onboarding criteria. Second year students, so that transition from the first to the second year, you do have to renew a couple items, and I'll work with the students when that time comes to make sure they know what it is that they need to resubmit. So I'm going to pause for just 1 second and see, Katie, do I have any comments, anything I need to address in the chat yet?
You are good to go.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, moving along. Our next item are the enrollment steps for the program. These are all laid out on our website. It is just cccc.edu/promise. And I'll be very honest, it's going to look like a lot of things, but I promise that it is completely navigable. Also, my entire role is to work with you as a student, or to work with your son and daughter to make sure that they're meeting each of these steps, turning in the documents that we're looking for. So don't be overwhelmed by the list. The very first thing that we're looking for with the students is to submit an interest form. It's a Google form online. It's free. I see a lot of names in the participant list tonight that already look familiar. So I think several of you have already done this, which is wonderful. But what the interest form does is it gets you on my radar and on a list so that I know you're interested and I know to follow up with you about any items that are complete or incomplete or things that you need to be working on. So if you're here this evening and you have not yet done that interest form, that would be the number one thing that I would recommend. And I can provide the link, the direct link to that later, but it is also on our main website. The next thing that we are looking for our students to do is to complete the internal CCCC Foundation Scholarship application. This goes back to that piece where this is a last dollar program. The nice thing that I can tell you about our Foundation Scholarship application is it's one application that you as the student submits, and then our Foundation Committee evaluates all of the applications or the awards, the scholarships that we have available, and they will purposely try to match you with an award. So instead of applying to each individual scholarship, you apply once and you're eligible for a wide variety of scholarships. There certainly are external scholarships that you can apply for. We just don't require that as part of the eligibility for K14 at this time. The FAFSA. Every student who is thinking of going to college, we certainly hope you're considering CCCC, but if for some reason you end up looking elsewhere, always, always, always complete your FAFSA. Even if you're a family that doesn't think that you'll qualify, you're not anticipating getting aid, always still submit your FAFSA. There is a big push to try to get students to complete the FAFSA. Literally millions of dollars every year that are on the table and available to students are not used because we have students that aren't completing their FAFSA. Data shows that if you complete your FAFSA, you're more likely to be successful as a college student. So there's a lot of reasons to go ahead and submit the FAFSA. A lot of scholarships, you will not be eligible for the scholarship if you don't do the FAFSA, and K14 is the same way. So completing the FAFSA is a requirement of a student enrolling in the program. Now, if you don't qualify, that's okay. We're going to look again at the scholarships. And if you don't get anything there, that is when K14 will step in, but it is a requirement to complete it. Along with that, there are occasionally some follow-up documents that are required for your FAFSA. We're going to talk about a timeline on the next slide, but just know that if there are required documents that you need to submit to complete your file, we'll be looking for those as well. And again, all of this is stuff that I will be communicating to the students. Anybody that is thinking of attending a North Carolina college will have to complete the residency determination process. That is designed now, it's handled by a central office within the state that determines either the in-state or out-of-state determination for a student. So whether you pay the in-state rate or out-of-state is determined by the residency determination service. All of these links are available on your website. If you have questions, I will help walk you through all of it. The next one occasionally trips up some of our CCP students. You are currently an active student at CCCC. However, as you approach graduation, your account with us essentially deactivates. It doesn't disappear, it doesn't go dead completely, but it kind of is put on pause. And so in order for us to reactivate your account and confirm that you're attending in the fall, you will need to submit a new admissions application. Some of you may have done this already. College application week was back in October. I know that we have several on file already for fall, but if you haven't done it yet, just be aware that that is something that will need to happen. Probably the easiest way to do it is through CFNC. That's an online application. It comes to the college. We download those every single day during the week. But if you, for any reason, do need a paper application or a different format, let me know and I can definitely help facilitate that. And then the last piece that we'll be looking for over the summer is a copy of your final official high school transcript. This will not be available to you until after you graduate. So if you show up next week with a transcript, we will very gladly take it, but just know that it will be unofficial until after it shows that you have graduated. So just know that that's something we'll be looking for over this summer. All right, let me check my notes, make sure we got all of this covered. All right. So important
Mary,
dates.
you've got one question really quick.
Beautiful, hit me.
One of the questions on the interest form asked if they have submitted the additional documents required by financial aid. and the person asking doesn't know what those additional requirements are or how they would find out what they are?
Great question. And that is just a timing piece. We'll talk a little bit about that on this slide actually. But just to let y'all know, the FAFSA every year opens October 1st. And so it's entirely possible that every person in the session tonight has already submitted their FAFSA, and that would be fantastic. We as a college do not connect to that FAFSA program and actually start accessing all of that data until about the end of April. So right now, if you were to call and say, Mary, do you have my FAFSA? I would say no, because we don't have anyone's FAFSA yet. So around the end of April, beginning of May, that's when our financial aid office, bless them all, they download all of that information for a couple thousand students. And then we start going through it to identify if those required additional documents are needed. So if so, financial aid will reach out to you. Always check your email. There's a way to access it in WebAdvisor to see if there's additional stuff that you need to turn in. You will also get several friendly reminder emails from me to let you know we're missing, maybe some tax information or a certain form or something like that. So for now, sit tight. The only piece that you could do at this point is to actually submit the FAFSA. There is nothing yet to be done in terms of follow-up. The only thing I will say is that if you go in, double check in the FAFSA, make sure CCCC school code is included. I believe our school code is 005449. That information is on our website. So in case I'm not remembering correctly, it's in writing on the website. So you don't need to catch that this evening. That'll be available to you in writing.
Would
So
you
hopefully that
recommend
helps.
Would you recommend that they go ahead and submit the interest form? Yes.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Interest form is the number one thing we're looking for right now. We have had students submitting that form since October. Right now, what I'm doing is sending out a monthly email that will say, Dear Katie, check your Aviso account and see which items you've completed, not completed, that kind of thing. So absolutely, that's something that you could do as early as this evening when we wrap up the call. That would be fantastic. And again, if there's any kind of questions, my email, phone number, all that will be on our last slide this evening. All right, important dates. You saw my little spinny here because that's a very important thing here. And what we've done is we've designed what we're calling priority deadlines for all of these items that we've been talking about. These are not hard and fast deadlines. It is March 2022, and I have some students that I am still working with to get items turned in from July of 2021. So there's really not a point that it's ever too late, but we really encourage students to meet these recommended deadlines. And the way that I'm approaching it is that if you're meeting these deadlines, I will do my part because there is a lot of processing, a lot of checking to make sure that we have everything we need. And there are several hundred of you and only one of me. So it takes me a couple days sometimes to do a full review. But if you meet the deadlines that I'm going to show you below, you have my promise that I will do my part. We will notify you that we have everything and let you know that everything looks good by August 1st. It also means that you will have everything in place for the first day of class. And I'll touch a little bit more on that in just a second. So no later than July 1st, we are going to be looking initially for your interest form, your scholarship application, and that initial FAFSA submission. Right now, those are all things that you could do this week. Check them off, have them done. I just, again, can't verify the FAFSA yet. That'll be about 2 months probably until we can confirm everything with the FAFSA. And then the next priority deadline will be about 3 weeks later. By July 22nd, we are looking for the rest of your items. So the admissions application, your final transcript, the financial aid verification documents. And so the reason you've got that 3-week gap is that if you have your FAFSA submitted by the 1st, it gives you 3 more weeks to get anything collected, turned in. Some of these items are not things you can necessarily put your hands on overnight. So we want to make sure that we give you sort of a lead-in time to address that. I have one more thing I'm going to mention, and then I think I see that there are a couple more questions possibly in the chat. So again, recommended deadlines, we will still work with students. The only drawback is that if things are not turned in by the priority deadlines, there is a possibility that we won't have everything behind the scenes in place for you by the first day of class. So we have occasionally had students that needed to pay out of pocket upfront to make sure they didn't get dropped from their classes. And then when we were able to get the rest of the pieces in place, we were able to reimburse them for their tuition and fee costs. So there's a lot that we can do. We want to be flexible. We want to work with students. Just know that if you can follow those recommended deadlines, it will really set you all up to have everything in place right from the start. So Katie, did I have another question?
I took the liberty of answering it, but the person that asked about the interest form was just asking for the question about the additional document. Should they just answer yes? And I confirmed what I hope is the right answer.
That's fine, yes. And really what's in that interest form, it's more an opportunity for me to make sure that students have all the links and the reminders. When you submit the interest form, you're going to get a copy of your responses. And so later on, if you're looking in a visa and you say, oh gosh, it looks like I didn't do my admissions application, how do I do that? You'll still have all that information in the form, confirmation that you'll get from the interest form this evening. All of this again, I promise you, Katie knows how much time I spend emailing students and sending text messages and reminders. So I don't expect anybody to walk away from this presentation this evening feeling like they know exactly what the plan is. I am here to help, support you, guide you, whatever you need along the way. Just to kind of wrap up, as an example, just if you're thinking about, what does this look like in terms of some money? Our tuition rate this spring at CCCC is $76 per credit hour. The typical college class is usually 3 credit hours, so it's about $200, a little more per class, and that is the in-state rate. Now, if you are a student who gets coded as an out-of-state student, you can still qualify for the K14 program. However, we will only be able to pay that in-state rate, and you would be responsible for paying the difference. So just keep that in mind. Being out of state does not preclude you from being in the program. It's just probably going to incur some extra costs on your end. And again, military, a lot of our military students sometimes are coded out of state. If that happens, let me know and I'll work with you to see if there are ways that we can address that. So $76 per credit hour. Our student fees rate this spring is $45 per student. The technology fees can vary by course depending on if they are fully online or a web assisted or whatever have you type course. So you're looking, if you're a full-time student at CCCC this spring, you'd be looking at a total bill of about $960. That does not include textbooks. And it's, $960 is, I think, reasonable for college, but it's also more money than what I've got in my couch cushions, I can say that. So we think that that's a pretty significant savings for our students and their families. By comparison, I did a little Googling and the tuition alone at NC State this spring is about $9,000 and the full cost is estimated to be over $25,000. That is not to knock NC State. They are a phenomenal school, well-respected institution. We have several students every year that transfer to state. They're phenomenal. But that's a lot of money. It's very expensive. And if you were to go to NC State straight out of high school, there's a very good chance that the classes you'd be taking your first 2 years would be really similar to the classes that you can take at CCCC, if not almost the same. So we do think that we have a way of providing a really equivalent education. It's comprehensive, it's comparable to what you might get at NC State or UNC or Charlotte or Wilmington. And we think we can do it at a greatly reduced cost, again, for the student and the family. So just an idea. That's not to say if you get into NC State this fall and you get a free ride, we support you fully and that is amazing. But if not, we would love for you to consider staying at CCCC. So that is more time than I meant to take from all of you this evening. I am going to open the floor up for questions, but I am also going to leave my contact information up here. My office phone number is here. I also have a Google Voice number that students can call or text. Our program email is there, and then our website as well. Really quickly, I will show you, I think if I can get to it, I want to show you our website. Katie, are you still seeing the website or did it stop sharing the presentation?
We are seeing the website.
Beautiful. Okay. So just to give everybody a quick glance, this is the website again, cccc.edu/promise. If you scroll through here, you will see the information sessions. We do have one more session tomorrow evening. This is an older presentation that's very similar to what you saw tonight. And then it does review all the eligibility requirements, the checklist, all the information that we've covered this evening. So you'll see that there are a lot of active links here. 22 grads, most of you this evening should be seniors. That's the link for the interest form, scholarship application, FAFSA, so on and so forth. So most of what you need should be right here on our main website. So, all right, have I got a question?
You do. If a student wants to take more than 12 credits in a semester, will the extra credits above 12 be covered?
Yes. Yes, there is a point at which we no longer even charge. It might be 16 credit hours. If you take more than 16 hours, it's just a flat rate. But CCCC will cover any number of courses that a student chooses to take. There was a point in time that we required students to be full-time. They had to have the 12 credit hours. And quite honestly, with everything that's been crazy the last couple of years, we realized that it really wasn't feasible. Some students need to be able to take 1 or 2 classes at a time in order to be successful. So we will support that. Well, any number of credits that you take, we are happy to support. Just know that you do have that 2-year sort of expiration date. So if you choose to go part-time, that's not a problem. It just means that you may not finish that full degree before you graduate. The only other thing I will say about classes is that we will check to make sure you're taking classes in your major. So if you apply as a nursing student and then you show up in the fall and you're taking welding classes, you're going to get an email from me saying, what's happening here? Your classes don't match your major. How can we fix this? So that's the only other thing that I would mention with respect to classes. What else?
That finishes up the, oh, just kidding. We have another one.
Okay.
If a student is applying for a program that requires placement testing exams, would they be able to take the prerequisite classes their first semester, not attend the second semester, and then for 2023 enroll in the dental hygiene program through the Promise program?
Yes. Again, it's just up to the student. We would encourage you, like in that situation, I would probably encourage a student not to take a semester off completely, because then you're not getting to take full advantage of the program. I will say that many of our students that are headed into our allied health fields, nursing, dental, vet med, so on and so forth, a lot of times they double major with not only that allied health program, but also with maybe an associate in arts. That way they can take classes that will count, for example, for their vet med program, or classes that might count if they plan to transfer on nursing, especially if you're interested in a BSN. So yes, but yes, if a student needs to take a semester off for any reason, they can. That's not a problem. And if at some point students have to change their major, if there's something happens and you change your mind, that is okay. We just, again, will ask that you do that formally with the college, have it on file that you've changed your major, and then make sure that you are taking classes that match up with that new major. Yes. All right. So, one question that I do want to ask, I did a little survey in last night's session. If everybody can, if you're able, just to pop in the chat box, we are wondering where you heard about our sessions tonight. I think we had some letters that we mailed home. I know I've sent out some communication through email and Aviso and that kind of thing. But I would be curious just to see where folks, got the information for this evening. And let me look. I've got my chat pulled up now. There's a question about testing. CCCC right now does not have any kind of testing requirement. We don't require SAT or ACT scores. If you, as a student, have an unweighted high school GPA of 2.8 or higher, that will waive any kind of testing requirements. If you are below a 2.8, but you do have SAT or ACT scores, we will certainly look at those, but we do not require them at this time. All right, and I just want to see, good, we got some folks that saw stuff on Facebook. I see a lot from the advisors at your high school. Wonderful. School counselor. Awesome. We are just trying to make sure, for future years, we want to make sure that we're kind of advertising and recruiting students in a way that makes sense from everybody. So snail mail. Yeah, man, that was new this year. We sent a letter out to everybody. So that's good. I'm glad that that was received and that folks are able to sort of act on that. So that is really all the information that I have to present this evening. What I will do is I am certainly going to stay on the line. Anybody, if you think of questions, feel free to pop those in the chat. You're also welcome to unmute yourself if that's easier. We will post a copy of the presentation tonight on we have a YouTube channel, I guess, for K14. And so again, if you missed part of the presentation this evening, or if you want to share it with a friend, we'll have that available. I will try to get those links up on this website, the cccc.edu/promise. You're also welcome to email me at any point, and I'll be happy to send that link back to you once I have everything posted on YouTube. So, all right, let me see. I've got a couple. Yes.
I was going to say, we do have 2 questions in the chat.
Beautiful. Okay, so I've got a question. What if a senior wants to take classes over the summer? 95 times out of 100, seniors are typically still covered under Career and College Promise for the summer, because you usually have not graduated high school by the time our summer term starts. And so you would work with the advisor at your high school regarding a summer class. K14 will not go into play until August. But if you're at Triton or Harnett Central, you should be able to work with a CCP advisor at your high school to talk about options for summer. And then a student, great question about a certain grade, like a GPA, to receive funding. Yes, there is a GPA requirement. Students do have to make satisfactory academic progress, which is also known as SAP. Mostly, we're looking for students to keep about a 2.0 GPA. I can tell you that out of, I think we have close to 500 students in the program this year, and there were maybe 10 that had an issue with their GPA. So it's rare, it does happen. What we do is follow the same policies as financial aid regarding your SAP. And typically, if you have 1 or 2 classes that you don't do super well in, that usually doesn't derail a student. It's just if you have semester after semester after semester of either not passing or withdrawing from classes. Withdrawing from classes, it is allowed, but if it happens too often, that can negatively impact your SAP. So really great question there. There was a question about the $9,000. That just right now, the cost of tuition at NC State this spring would be $9,000, whereas the total cost for CCCC would be about $950. So if, $950 is far cheaper than $9,000, but if we can turn $950 into 0 for you guys through this program, we think that that's pretty helpful. So great. Yep. And Katie answered that too. So thank you guys so much for coming. We had about 18 people that logged in this evening, which is really wonderful. We're very grateful. We do have one more session. It's right here on the website. And we split them up by county to do the 3 nights, but it really, the information is pretty much the same across all 3 counties. So if you see that, if you have a friend or somebody that couldn't make it tonight, we will definitely be here at 6 o'clock again tomorrow evening. And again, we'll post the videos. I'm accessible. I'm happy to call and chat with anybody if they've got questions. But this is a really great way to get everything out, hopefully, to lots of students at once. So Faith, you had a question about the tuition. That is usually, typically classes, tuition usually needs to be paid at the time that classes start. With the way that K14 works and financial aid, we actually administer funds a little bit after the start of the semester, but that's something I'll take care of, and I'll make sure to communicate that to you guys. I see one more question, FAQs. Yes, so it is 2 years in the sense that it is from your eligibility as a 22 high school graduate. It would start in August of 22 and continue straight through until the spring semester of 24. We do cover that summer semester in between. So it's a fall, spring, and summer, and then a fall and spring. We do not cover the second summer at this time. So it is 5 consecutive semesters. Whether you attend all 5 or a few of them and take some time off, either way, that window for you will close at the end of the spring semester in 2024. So beautiful. Again, I will stay on the line, but if y'all are at a point that you don't have any additional questions, you are definitely free to go. Thank you so much for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us. We really appreciate it. And please just let me know. I'm going to apologize in advance for 1,000 emails that you'll get from me moving forward. But I try to make sure that I'm really communicative with the students so that they know what's going on and what they're missing and that kind of thing. But please reach out anytime that you have questions. So, all right, Sydney, you said you've got some questions about the fees. If you want to pop that in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, whatever is easier, you are welcome to do that. So, and thank you guys so